2,000 years after the publication of John Milton's poem, Paradise Lost, the Earth's population exceeds 500 plus billion human beings who believe that paradise has been regained. However, truth be known, Satan and his archfiends have been using Earth for eons as their weekend pied-à-terre, and the planet looks like hell. Satan believes that he's at the peak of his glory, but then so does mankind. Since that day in the Garden of Eden, when Satan tempted Adam and Eve with ego, the bittersweet fruit from the tree of knowledge, mankind has been using ego as a justification for dominating every square inch of the globe. Science is the official religion, and back issues of popular mechanics are considered to be holy scripture by egotists with cyber terminals in their breast pocket who pass for the clergy. Technological progress has driven trillions of species, both animal and vegetable, into extinction. Global warming has reduced the Great Lakes in North America to the size of mud puddles, and the Mississippi River is as dry as a classic martini. In response to global overpopulation, mankind has created a virtual paradise in cyberspace, not unlike the Garden of Eden of yesteryear. These days, nobody on Earth takes the old devil seriously. Through the concentrated psychokinesis of 500 plus billion online egos seated at cyber terminals worldwide, in the year 4656 AD, by popular vote, Satan is expelled from the world for being irrelevant. Soon afterwards, the Prince of Darkness returns to the pit of hell, which is located near Uranus. Frankly, the eternal lake of fire comes as a relief, being less crowded and of a more temperate climate. Satan convenes with his motley crew of tormentors at Pandemonium, the capital of hell, in order to discuss various ways of taking revenge on mankind. Beelzebub, the old devil's sidekick of the days when the legions of darkness warred against heaven, advocates installing air conditioning in the outer circles, thereby creating a polar magnetic shift on Earth which would destroy the world as well as cyberspace. Yowza, yowza, shout the fiends and archfiends. Yowza, chill, you pox-ridden ghouls, snickers the archfiend Holy Moly. Satan grants him the floor among the writhing serpents. Have you forgotten that we've lost one war with heaven already? We damnable scum cannot fight man's clever arsenal of technology, not to mention his churlish sentimentality. No, our revenge must be subtle and worthy of our sinister reputation. Then what do you suggest? Asks Satan. Holy Moly wipes his nose on his soot-stained robe and raises a finger prophetically. It is rumored in heaven that mankind has created a virtual paradise in cyberspace with two cyber beings, male and female, whose names are Geek and Squeak. These creatures are only a little less charismatic than we denizens of this unholy pit. Their perfection lies in their lack of ego. What I suggest is that one of us fiends infiltrates cyberspace and corrupts these cyber beings by tempting them to withdraw from their account at the ATM tree. What kind of tree? Reply the fiends and archfiends in unison, bewildered by Holy Moly's suggestion. In creating a virtual paradise, explains Holy Moly, mankind was fully aware of the dangers of ego. Therefore, the Council of Goodness has banished all forms of egotism to a data bank at the center of the website in order that the cyber beings, Geek and Squeak, are not tempted to veer from their path of perfect happiness. Who will volunteer for this diabolical mission? Much grumbling is heard in the bowels of hell, but nobody raises a gnarly claw to volunteer. Most of the fiends and archfiends believe that even the despair and eternal damnation is more exciting than a trip through cyberspace. Finally, reflecting on his own deep humiliation at the hands of mankind, Satan volunteers to go alone into man's netherworld. He hopes for a glorious send-off, but receives only a few Bronx cheers from his fiendish cohorts. God takes a seat online at his golden terminal, where he and his son are keeping tabs on the goings-on in hell. The old devil is preparing to enter cyberspace, God says, looking up from the terminal. His son approaches for a closer look, as Satan begins his ascent from the underworld. Verily, Father, what's going to happen? God says with a wink. Satan is up to his old tricks, son. He plans to corrupt mankind's creation, Geek and Squeak, in much the same way that he corrupted Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. You mean by tempting them with ego? Isn't that a lot? Snorts God triumphantly. Nobody can think of anything I haven't thought of already. Satan approaches the gates of hell leading to the Bridge of Chaos, which leads to the gates of Seattle, which leads to the Fool's Paradise and finally to cyberspace. He catches sight of his teenage son, Death, loafing about the outskirts, smoking cigarettes. Recently, Satan has placed a ban on smoking in hell in order to make things as diabolical as possible. Hey there, son. Why aren't you tormenting someone? Shouts the Prince of Darkness. Death replies with a sneer. Nobody's dying these days, Pops. Man's got recycling down to an art. Which is true. The current crop of human beings average 600 years in age and are made largely of computer chips, plastic, candied yams, and a dull gray skin covering that looks suspiciously like duct tape. Satan catches sight of his rebellious daughter, Cynthia, who goes by the nickname Sin, sitting on the rings of Saturn, listening to heavenly wrath. Hey there, daughter, shouts the Prince of Darkness. Why aren't you leading someone into temptation? Cynthia replies with a sneer that's even more arrogant than her brother's. Why? Nobody's sinning these days, Pops. Genetic engineering has perfected the species. Satan leaves hell in disgust. When he alights on the rim of the gates of Seattle, he transforms himself into a cigar which his shadow offers with a flourish to Eurethus, the angel guarding the surge protector, who is known as an incorrigible nicotine fiend who belongs in hell. Why, thank you, kind sir. Truly a heavenly cigar, says Eurethus. He strikes a match, takes a puff, smiles angelically, and blows a few egg-shaped smoke rings while Satan slithers into the angel's bloodstream and passes through the surge protector into Fool's Paradise. Everyone in Fool's Paradise is having a jolly good time, believing that they're in heaven. Every so often, one in their midst is paged over the sound system, and a deep hush falls over the crowd as his or her number is called. If your number is called, you must return to Earth for another go-around. In Fool's Paradise, you take the gamble that your number will never be called. And, as a matter of fact, some fools' numbers are never called, and you can find them doing the limbo to the lush sounds of Belafonte. Sometime later, Eurethus staggers into Heaven's video library with burn holes in his robe and the telltale signs that his hair was recently aflame. Gasping for breath, the angel blurts, "Oh God, the wicked one has just tricked me and entered cyberspace." "I know that," says God irritably. "My son and I observed this taking place in the eternal moment. Eurethus, you have provoked my wrath, and I have a mind to punish you severely." "Father," interrupts the son, "forgive the angel, for he knows not what he does." "It is true that I know not what I do," Eurethus speaks up, bowing humbly. "But please, Almighty, would you explain how you and your son can just sit there at the golden terminal and watch Satan perform his evil deeds?" "I have given mankind free will," explains God. "Otherwise, his loving me would be a charade." "Verily, Father," the son interrupts, "the angel isn't referring to mankind, but rather to the cyber beings, Geek and Squeak." "I know that." God smacks his forehead and wags an omnipotent finger at his only begotten. "Have you forgotten, son, that I know everything? I see no reason to intervene divinely in the world's affairs while things are going smoothly according to my infinite plan." The son sighs with pity. "Oh, you never change, Father. You deserve the reputation of walking away from worlds which you create." On his return to his post at the Surge Protector, the angel Eurethus is stopped at the pearly gates by a mighty blast on the golden trumpet of the archangel Gabriel. Gabriel informs Eurethus that heaven has just been faxed a world prayer from the Council of Goodness on Earth, and that the angel is needed immediately at the website in order to warn Geek and Squeak of Satan's presence in cyberspace. Geek catches wind of a reeking cigar and sees the angel Eurethus approaching their camp by the stream in the center of the playground. Unafraid, he goes to meet the angel.
"Hello, Eurethus,"
He says when they meet.
"Put out your stogie. You know there's no smoking in cyberspace."
Eurethus grumbles, stubs out his cigar, and follows Geek to the campsite where Squeak, stark naked as the day she was created, is starting a smokeless fire. Eurethus greets her with a courteous bow. The angel isn't turned on by the cyberwoman's naked hooters. Eurethus is a hail-bopper reincarnate from long ago who was rendered sexless in order to work his way up the ladder of consciousness to his current position as the guardian angel of the Surge Protector. He sits down on a boulder next to Geek near the campfire. "Now, Geek and Squeak, I must come right to the point. I was sent to warn you about Satan who has entered cyberspace. As the scriptures say in back issues of Popular Mechanics, our Cadillac's sleek design is a disguise for comfort. Buy yours today,"
Oh my god,
says Squeak.
is Satan the fat guy who comes for Christmas?
"Cyberwoman, his name is Santa."
Corrects Geek.
"Go on, Angel. What's the rap sheet on this Satan dude?"
The angel Eurethus begins to tell the story of Satan, how in the beginning he joined forces with Ego and declared war on heaven. But Satan's army were weaklings, whiners, complainers, haters, and bigots, the angel says, plucking each word like the strings of a vintage Stratocaster. The slightest wound inflicted on the forces of Ego would remain unhealed eternally. Eurethus smiles uneasily and continues, "So beware, cyber beings. Satan has infiltrated cyberspace and is lurking hereabouts at the website." Geek has a sinking feeling in his cyber guts and wishes he could blame it on fear, but he hasn't yet coined that word.
"So what should we do, Angel?"
"Nothing," says Eurethus.
Nothing?
Repeats Squeak. "Yes, nothing. Just as you have always done,"
"Nothing is a lot of territory to cover."
says Geek. "But aren't you doing nothing at this very moment?"
We're doing nothing except babbling.
says Squeak. "Truly," replies Eurethus with a sly raise of his angelic eyebrows, "we are doing nothing but babbling beside this moonlit stream in the words of the poet. This is perfect happiness."
"That's not our definition, Angel. Squeak and I will show you what perfect happiness is, if you like. I call it the bonobo blitz position."
Eurethus relights his cigar and blows several smoke rings, poking his index finger through each one. "Some other time perhaps, cyber beings. Now that I've accomplished my assignment, I must go. You have been warned. Do nothing. Be happy." Meanwhile, Satan searches the website for a cartoon character with which he can disguise himself in order to tempt the cyber beings. He recalls that in the Garden of Eden he posed as the serpent, but decides not to repeat himself. After all, like mankind, Satan was given free will, which has been his only consolation while reigning over an absurd world. sees Geek and Squeak sleeping near the stream on orthopedic ferns. Unlike the cartoon cyber voyeurs chattering in the artificial treetops, Geek and Squeak are three-dimensional, nubile creatures, innocent and completely naked in the unabashed vigor of their pretense. Satan cannot stand this happy scene. He is reminded of the Garden of Eden, wherein he tempted the first human beings to eat the bittersweet fruit from the tree of knowledge, without telling them that ego was a tool given by God so that mankind could worship God more truly. Since the beginning, mankind had misused ego in order to worship himself, as if he were God. Satan sees the cartoon dolphin flapper near the waterfall. He thinks a more innocent creature could not exist. Swiftly then, he transforms himself into a breath of fresh air, entering Flapper's air hole, while the cartoon dolphin dreams of his glory days at Marine World, USA, 3,000 years ago. Geek awakens from his usual dreamless sleep and finds Squeak already awake. She looks dazed and unkempt, and he finds bubblegum stuck in her hair. Before unrolling the latex doodle and assuming the bonobo blitz position, Geek cuts out the patch of gum with a Swiss Army knife that he keeps attached to a thong around his wrist.
God, I think I had a dream.
Squeak cries out. Geek looks at her with amazement. Mankind has granted Geek the privilege of naming everything in the playground, but Geek doesn't recall having coined the word dream.
What do you mean, Cyberwoman? Things do not exist without names, and I haven't yet coined the word dream. So this dream of yours cannot exist.
It's true that neither Geek nor Squeak have ever dreamed before. The fact is, without ego, dreams are impossible.
Well, whatever you want to call it.
Says Squeak.
I heard a voice and I followed the voice, which led me to the plaza, where there was a filthy, disgusting, I don't know what, you can name it later, standing next to the ATM tree.
Did you withdraw from your account?
Of course not.
Replies Squeak modestly.
I haven't forgotten that we're forbidden to patronize the ATM tree.
She pets Geek's arm tenderly, as she always does when she needs to calm him down. The two cyber beings look at each other shyly, then unroll the latex doodle and assume the bonobo blitz position. When Geek and Squeak are finished making angels, as they say in heaven, they lift their arms in rapture and praise mankind for creating cyberspace and for creating all of the wonderful cartoon characters who keep them company. Then, rising to their feet and brushing off their dimpled knees, Squeak turns to Geek and asks,
What should we do today?
Nothing,
replies Geek.
Don't you remember what the angel Eurethus told us last night?
But you said nothing is a lot of territory to cover.
Tough luck,
Says Geek.
We shall do nothing until after lunch, when we take a dip in the stream and are amused by the cartoon dolphin Flapper.
Oh, that dolphin no longer amuses me.
Complains Squeak.
I can't understand a word of his babble. What did you call it?
Incomprehensible.
Says Geek. He finishes his breakfast and throws his empty bowl over his shoulder in a parody of a caveman.
But I think I will coin a new word which will make Flapper's babble comprehensible.
What word is that?
Anthropomorphism.
Oh my God, such a big word.
Says Squeak with admiration. Geek nods proudly, patting himself on the back. He asks Squeak if she would then like to unroll the latex doodle for what he will call a quickie.
A quickie?
A word I just coined, Cyberwoman.
But Squeak has better things to do than assume the bonobo blitz position every time Geek coins a new word. She suggests taking an early dip in the stream and races Geek to the deep end where before she dives from a rock near the waterfall. As Squeak comes up for air, Satan, in the figure of the dolphin, joins her. He applauds with his flippers and compliments her on her graceful dive. Squeak is startled. For once she understands the dolphin's babble. She splashes water in his direction in a gesture of playfulness.
Oh, Flapper, where did you learn to babble? With you, it's always eat this and eat that. Is my God teaching you the words that he coins?
All the animals can babble if you withdraw from your account at the ATM tree,
Says Satan slyly. He arches his dorsal fin, somersaults in the air, goes below water and comes up behind the Cyberwoman, blasting her through his air hole and bubbling with enthusiasm. Squeak gasps, treading water to stay afloat.
But how did you get to the ATM tree in order to withdraw from your account? Didn't the gravel path hurt your little flippers?
to be honest.
Replies Satan.
I once learned to crawl like a snake.
Just then, Geek surfaces nearby, and Satan mocks the Cyberman.
Ahoy, sailor!
Geek's eyes jerk toward the dolphin, then back at Squeak.
What did you say, Cyberwoman?
I didn't say anything.
Squeak does not make me babble.
Says Satan. Geek looks at Squeak, then at the dolphin. He doesn't catch either of them moving their lips. He declares,
I think I will coin a new word which explains how the cartoon dolphin babbles. Ventriloquism.
Nay, Cyberman, you are a fool.
replies Satan, swimming first to the right, then to the left, in order to distract Geek.
There are many words that you have not yet coined.
Where would I find these words?
Asks the Cyberman.
In the ATM tree.
Replies Satan.
The ATM tree is forbidden.
Interrupts Squeak.
We do not want to babble words that are forbidden.
Satan taunts them both.
Goody goods.
What did you call us?
Protests Geek.
Twigs.
Oh my God, the dolphin no longer amuses me.
Yes, we are getting bored.
He says, coining a new word. Taking Squeak by the hand, Geek and his Cyberwoman return to camp, leaving Satan frustrated by his failure to deceive them. Glancing up from the golden terminal, God tells his son that Satan has failed at his first attempt to corrupt the cyber beings. Mankind, viewing the goings-on in the playground from their cyber terminal on Earth, places a conference call to heaven. The oldest and wisest man on Earth is named Damn Man. He's approaching his 1000th birthday and has a defective voice box. He explains to God their predicament.
We're not out of the woods yet.
Verily, Damn Man, come to the point, says the son.
Okay, it's like this. When we created the website, we followed your Almighty's example and made the cyber beings in our own image, which, unfortunately, meant programming them with paradox.
The son resumes his seat. Come to the point, Damn Man. What effect does this paradox programming have on Geek and Squeak?
None yet.
Says the wisest man in the world.
But if the cyber beings withdraw from their account at the ATM tree, they will suddenly look to the future for their happiness, and consequently, the perfect happiness that they experience now will be subverted, and they will begin to live in fear and anxiety. Which sums up mankind's affairs since the beginning of time wouldn't you say?
The son looks at his father in confusion. Is this true, father? Verily, it is so, replies God with chagrin. I'm sorry, son, but it was the best I could do in the beginning. But you mustn't forget some of my other planets, which are doing remarkably well. The son looks aghast, gripping the edge of the golden terminal. But father, I thought my message of love, for which I was crucified, took care of fear and anxiety. Are you telling me that I'm a failure? The color, what little color there is in a blonde, blue-eyed Jesus of Scandinavian extraction, drains from the son's face. Petulantly, he picks at his scabs on the palms of his hands. Now stop picking on yourself, commands God. You know how your mother hates that, son. What can be done to stop the old devil? Should we pull the plug on the whole shebang? On earth, damn man grows faint and clutches his heart, struggling to catch his breath. The directors at the table with him dart cautious glances in each other's direction and titter with the expectation that damn man's plastic heart will explode at any moment. And knowing that his demise is imminent, it's all that the oldest, wisest man in the world can do to stay philosophical.
Excuse me, Your Almighty. May I suggest an idea?
What is it, man?
According to our latest computer analysis,
Explains damn man.
you made a big mistake in the beginning by not being the first to tempt Adam and Eve to eat the bittersweet fruit of ego from the tree of knowledge. You let Satan beat you to the punch. Consequently, knowledge of oneself, of mortality, of wishing to fulfill one's hopes and dreams, was the result of disobedience. It's no wonder that we humans are a bunch of screwed-up egomaniacs. And the cyber beings are in danger of becoming the same. Arrgh.
Damn man's ancient heart bursts with a whoosh. His dull gray bodysuit splits at the seams, and his plastic organs spill onto the floor, bouncing this way and that. Whimpering like a grieving weasel, he tumbles off his chair and fake blood puddles at his styrofoam feet. The board of directors quickly take a vote and call for maintenance. How interesting, says God, stroking his long white beard 4,600 light years away. The oldest, wisest man on earth can only think in peculiarly horrible paradoxes. Well, son, what do you think of man's bright idea that we intervene and tempt the cyber beings first to withdraw from their account at the ATM tree? Verily, father, says the son, as you know, I was nailed to the cross the last time I tried to help mankind. Once burnt, twice shy. God puts his arm around his only begotten and gives him a reassuring hug, which brings them both close to pitiful tears. This time may be different, son. Don't forget that I created random chance as well as law and order. The son prepares for his journey into cyberspace, taking with him only what he can carry on his back, including the verities of the heart. The verities of the heart weigh a ton and prove to be a lot of baggage to schlep through the surge protector. Eurethus, you old stinker, the son greets the angel. Let me pass. The angel puffs on his ever-present cigar. Who wishes to pass? the Son of God. Eurystheus doesn't recognize the sun through all the smoke and haze surrounding the gates of Seattle. How do I know that you are who you say you are? Eurystheus, replies the sun with pity, touching his halo. How can you be so stupid? Not long ago, we were in the video library together, talking to the Father. Surely you recognize me. Eurystheus ponders for a moment, blowing smoke rings toward an approaching asteroid. Ah, but we were in heaven at the time, son, where one never runs into Satan. Now that we are no longer in heaven, with all due respect, you might be one of Satan's fiendish cohorts. The sun takes a step back, waving the smoke out of his face. Verily, angel, stop your damn philosophizing. Must I invoke my father's wrath to get you to open the gates? The sun's eyes begin to glow bright, and wisely Eurystheus allows him passage through the surge protector. As the sun enters Fool's Paradise, he's jostled by a rowdy crowd and is cajoled into joining a conga line. Near a jungle of video equipment near the bandstand, he slips away unnoticed and descends to the ATM tree where choirmaster John Milton and billions of squalling, squawking, squealing, squabbling, squirming egos greet him. Closing his ears to their unbearable anguish, the sun readjusts his halo and slips through the cash slot onto the playground. Near the stream, he sees Geek and Squeak sleeping peacefully in each other's arms on orthopedic ferns. He ogles them from every angle, marveling at their striking cyber beauty. A wave of compassion comes over him, and in the end, the sun can only feel the greatest pity for these unnatural creatures who obviously love each other, but cannot fully appreciate their devotion due to their lack of ego. Meanwhile, Satan observes the scene from the treetops and perceives the sun in the presence of the cyber beings. He thinks to himself, what ingrates this nephew of mine and his father? If it hadn't been for my clever influence, mankind would never have evolved past the amoeba stage. Oh no, I will not let them outsmart me. Coming closer to the sleeping couple, the sun sees Squeak's pet bobcat sleeping at her feet. Stealthily, he enters through the cat's mouth during one of its fantastic yawns and repositions himself against the cyberwoman's back, close to her ear. Squeak comes half awake with a murmur. The sun whispers, "Verily, Squeak, I say unto you."
Flapper?
She says sleepily. No, not exactly. This is the sun. I have come to tell you that in the morning, you and your Cyberman must withdraw from your account at the ATM tree. A warning light goes on in Squeak's paradoxically programmed what passes for a mind. The ATM tree is forbidden. Why then should she withdraw from her account? Without ego, Squeak has no desire to do the forbidden. The sun, reading her thoughts, is touched by the greatest pity for her shallow logic and a bipolar imagination. He rubs against her nakedness, and Squeak sighs, once again perfectly happy, reassured by the sensuality of the bobcat's cartoon fur. You may think you're happy now, the sun tries a second time. But wait until you know what love is, Squeak.
Love?
The word loops through her mind like a Mobius strip. Has Geek coined such a word? Just then, Satan assumes the form of Mr. Owl and flaps his wings, takes flight, swoops across the stream, and alights on a boulder near the campfire. The sun lifts his bobcat head and hisses, then takes a swipe at the fiendish owl. In unison, Geek and Squeak awaken, recoiling in fright as the sun and Satan hiss, meow, and hoot at each other.
Oh my god, the cartoons have learned to babble.
Meow.
Says the sun. Hoot, replies Satan, ruffling his feathers. Abruptly then, the sun and Satan blurt in unison.
You must withdraw from your account at the ATM tree.
Thoughtfully, Geek puts an arm around his Cyberwoman.
This is cuckoo.
He says, coining a new word which sounds deliciously onomatopoeic. Arriving at the ATM tree, Satan points to a gash on the trunk and instructs Geek to use his Swiss Army knife to engage the machine. Geek unstraps the knife from his wrist and edges the blade into the gash. The screen lights up, the cash slot opens, and out pops twins. Name tags reveal their identity as Able and Willing. Later that evening, Geek and Squeak are dipping in the stream with Flapper, whose babble they can no longer understand, much to their relief. The cartoon dolphin is pulling their sons, Able and Willing, in a plastic boat in the stream. From a distance, Geek and Squeak are the picture of a happy family unit. Man's voice booms through the treetops, startling them.
Geek and Squeak, this is your creator. Why did you patronize the ATM tree?
Bob and Mr. Owl told us to.
Replies Squeak.
They said it was no longer forbidden.
Confirms Geek.
You don't feel guilty?
Asks Man.
Should we?
No, that's okay. If you felt guilty, we'd have to put you in therapy.
Geek lets out a rebel yell and gives the treetops the thumbs up sign.
Listen, I've got a wife, 2 great kids, a boat, a swimming pool. Man, we're in love.
Ever since Geek and Squeak withdrew from their account at the ATM tree, and Geek coined the word love, he and Squeak have been babbling it indiscriminately.
That's very nice, Geek.
Replies Mankind.
So what more do I need?
A job.
Says Man. A job, thinks Geek. He hasn't coined the word job. Man's voice grows louder.
Listen, Geek. Who do you think is going to pay for the things you withdraw from the ATM tree?
Geek begins treading water to stay afloat.
Man, I suppose you're going to tell me that my ego has to pay.
Yes, and the Cyberwoman's too.
You must be joking.
Scoffs Geek.
Who's going to look after Able and Willing?
Daycare.
Says Mankind.
We've got Mickey, Donald, and Big Bird programmed to educate your children, so they can take care of you and Squeak in your old age.
Our old age?
Says Geek.
Squeak, are you listening?
Interrupts Mankind.
Do you realize that you're naked?
Squeak, near the waterfall, comes out of her trance.
Yes, as a matter of fact. I was just admiring my pooters, don't you think?
Well, we think you're putting on weight.
Says Man.
And Geek, you're losing your hair.
Geek swims towards Squeak and whispers.
Our creator says Able and Willing are going to be educated by cartoons while we guard the ATM tree. Also something about old age, whatever that means. But whatever happens, Equal, I love you.
I love you equally.
Says Squeak. Since Geek coined the word love, he's decided to rename Squeak his equal, because she made it clear to him that there would be no bonobo blitz position unless they shared equal responsibility for the children. Responsibility is a word that Squeak has coined, which sticks in Geek's throat like peanut butter.
Did I mention death?
Man calls out with the tone of his voice becoming more ominous.
Death? What about death?
Geek says in return, tired of hearing words that he hasn't yet coined.
We reserve the right to pull the plug at any time, okay? Your vital organs will be recycled. No hard feelings.
It isn't fair.
Geek brings a fist out of the water and brandishes it toward the treetops, then toward the sky, toward wherever his unseen creator may be sitting pompously in observation.
Take it easy, Geek,
Concludes mankind.
You'll feel better once you've adjusted to your newfound hope, which is the fringe benefit of love, a byproduct, you might say.
Thus, in the eternal moment, the archangels are preparing for the Family Day barbecue, which will commence just as soon as the sun arrives from the World Deli with the kosher hot dogs and Satan arrives from hell with coals for the grill. Everything has gone according to God's infinite plan, as it must, which is surely the only justification for the ways of mankind. There is a knock on heaven's door, followed by ribald shouts of Yowza, Yowza, mingled with Hip, Hip, Hip. The archfiend Moloch, weighing close to 60 tons, will spend the entire day eating ashes from the fire pit. Satan's daughter, Cynthia, will dance with the sun while Satan dances with the Virgin Mother. The Elvis impersonator from heaven, a slim, cocky, lip-curling, good old boy who thinks he's a devil, will get into a tango with the Elvis impersonator from hell, a corpulent, bewhiskered windbag who thinks he's an angel, over who gets to sing All Shook Up with the all-star band featuring Bach on vibes. Let the celebration begin. God will smile, and his smile will light up the cosmos, stretching all the way to cyberspace where Geek and Squeak are working off their debt to the ATM tree, trying to keep able and willing from clubbing each other, struggling to survive in an artificial, unnatural world, yet loving every minute, never wanting it to end.
Bye.